Well, Broncos country, what is poppin', man? Hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. It's your boy Mark here with Marky Sports. Been a couple days, been trying to survive this heat, survive these allergies, but we are back again to talk some Denver Broncos football. And today we're gonna break down Jahdae Barron, what the selection means, and the true impact that he can actually have on this defense. I don't think we really spent enough time on just how he really rounds this defense up to form and allows for us to, when you look at it on paper, and I get it, guys, on paper does not mean on the field. We don't really have any weaknesses at all on this defense, and Jahdae Barron is one of the big reasons why that is the case. So like and subscribe, guys, if you love Denver Broncos content. And let's get right into Jahdae Barron. So what the biggest thing, it was, I mean, obviously on draft night, right? The 20th overall pick. I don't think anybody in Broncos country saw the Jahdae Barron pick happening. It was kind of a shock to everybody. And at first, some people were really upset, right? Understandably so. They wanted running back, or they wanted a tight end, or they wanted a wide receiver, something on the offensive side of the ball. But George Payton and Sean Payton made the decision that they wanted to add strength to a strength that he was just too good of a player to pass up on. And in many ways, now that you're looking at it in hindsight, it makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because as good as our defense was last year, we definitely still had our holes, and there was clear ways in which offenses around the league were starting to attack our defense, especially once injuries started to kind of compile, specifically the Riley Moss one, right? So let's talk about the versatility first of Jahdae Barron. What makes him such a special prospect coming out of Texas is that he's got the ability to play in many different positions across the defense, right? He can play in the nickel and be very, very, very solid, very effective. Probably the best nickel cornerback. I think he was the best corner in the draft, but definitely the best nickel. He also has the ability to play on the outside as a true outside corner. And taking it a step further, he can play in a safety role. He can play free safety in certain packages if you need him to be kind of a center field type of player, and he can also play in the box. He's a very good tackler, and he's very good against the run, despite his 5'11", 220, 200 or 195 pounds or whatever he ends up being. Ultimately, not the biggest corner, but good enough size, right? Think Champ Bailey when you think about a size, right? So definitely enough to be very impactful. That versatility is huge because now not only does it help us along the aspect of if an injury happens, right? If Riley Moss goes down, you've got a plug and play guy in Jahdae Barron that can just play on the outside, replace him, and really feel like if all goes as planned, nothing is going to be, you're not going to take a step back defensively. In fact, there might even be room for improvement by having Jahdae Barron there. And it also helps significantly in terms of the overall depth of the team, right? In other areas, not just with Riley Moss, but it allows for, if Hufanga goes down, we could utilize him. All right. And then in addition to that, it also brings guys like Jaquan McMillan, who are one of my favorite players. I love Jaquan McMillan. He definitely had his moments of struggling last year, but I love the player. I think his positive plays always outweigh the negatives, but it allows for somebody that was a starter for us last year, a player that played 870 snaps. That's starter amounts of snaps. Even though he was our slot corner, he basically played as a starter, significant amount of snaps. It allows for him to now be relegated to more of a depth role, so he can step in if needed, right? So if Riley Moss goes down and Jahdae Barron's going to be the guy that replaces him, you've still got a very good, experienced player that can come in and fill into the nickel position. And it allows for Chris Abrams-Drain to continue his development, right? We all projected him to be more of a nickel type of slot corner, but he's showed last year that he can play on the outside as well. So he further adds to the depth. So we are now 3 or 4 corners deep, whereas last year we really didn't have much depth at all because you were struggling to, find guys that can fit that mold once Riley Moss went down. And that's kind of the biggest key there is one player allows for our depth to basically double with guys like Abrams-Drain and McMillan now being in depth roles. Now, obviously, Chris Abrams-Drain was in a depth role regardless, but he's got another year under his belt. He got some playing time. He showed that the moments are not going to be too big for him. And Jaquan McMillan is now someone that is, can be coming off of the bench as a depth player after being a starter for the last couple of years and being very effective there. And then you also think about the depth that it could potentially add at safety, right? You got PJ Locke, who was a starter for the last couple of years, who played a significant amount of snaps, now being your backup safety. And I think he's a premium backup, premium depth type of safety. And you can also add Jahdae Barron to the mix if need be as well, or at least in very specific packages. So that's going to be where the real big impact lies with somebody like him. In addition to that, from a game planning standpoint, think about how, when you're breaking down opponents week over week, things change, right? You want to be able to adjust your defense to the strength of the offense. One that particularly comes to mind for me when I started breaking down the Jahdae Barron pick was the Las Vegas Raiders. I will always call them the Oakland Raiders. But with the Raiders, they don't necessarily have an elite receiver on the outside, right? After they got rid of Devontae Adams. I mean, they got Jacoby Myers, who I think is very, very good. But they have Brock Bowers at the tight end position. And in the first game, he killed us early, and then we ended up putting PS2 on him and kind of mitigated him. And then we kind of followed that same formula. But now it allows for us to be a lot more versatile, right? If you're going up against a premier offense, somebody like the Bills, for example, or the Lions, or even the Eagles, who are actually playing this year, you can be a lot more, what's the word? Like, you can be a lot more flexible in terms of the type of game plan, right? Like previously it used to be, okay, put PS2 on the best receiver and double up on the other side and kind of hope for the best. And it allowed for the offense to kind of pick their poison, right? Pick different areas of the field that the defense was vulnerable. A game that comes to mind was the Bengals game last year, right? Now, we were just getting Riley Moss back, but he obviously was not 100%. But even in that game, you're like, all right, PS2 can go after Jamar Chase. Then you're going to leave T. Higgins on your second corner. But, and they all ended up, I mean, T. Higgins had a really big game. Jamar Chase kind of. But who really ended up having the big game was their tight end, right? He ended up absolutely killing us. And just like always happens, every time I press record, I end up forgetting names. But Mike Gesicki was the tight end that ended up killing us, and it's because they found the weaknesses across the entirety of the field. Well, if we were to play up against the Bengals again this year, you've got a lot more flexibility now. You can pick your spots. You can put PS2 on Jamar Chase. You can put Jahdae Barron on T. Higgins or Riley Moss on T. Higgins. And then whoever you end up putting on T. Higgins, you can take the other guy and put him on Mike Gesicki, and you're going to be able to cover the field a lot better. You're going to be able to really mitigate the amount of weaknesses that they have. And because Jahdae's so good on the inside and on the outside, it just allows for you to really be versatile in terms of the way that you game plan. In addition, a lot of the reports that are coming out and something that you consistently saw from coaches that have coached him, particularly Vance Joseph's cousin, who was his positional coach in Texas, is that he's an unbelievably smart, high IQ football player. And that's always going to be the biggest key. That's one thing that I think is the biggest learning curve going from college to the NFL is can you process information quickly? Can you be on the field and just playing and using your instincts rather than thinking about what it is that you have to do? And he's lightning, like many, many years, or what a lot of people say, ahead of the normal college prospect in that. He even mentioned that, he really wants to be a coach one day, and he feels like he'd be a really good coach because he's got such a high football IQ. But, his experience in college, playing a lot of snaps and also playing multiple positions has helped him a lot. And I think he's obviously going to get very, very good coaching going into the NFL as well, because Vance Joseph has proven that he can coach up defensive players really well, specifically, secondary players. And then obviously we have just a wonderful staff as a whole that's going to be able to really make it easy for him so that he's out there playing and not necessarily thinking so much. And if that's the case, man, I look at this defense as a whole and I say, where is our weakness? When we used to do the weekly breakdowns last year, I used to always say, this is the way that I could forecast this particular opponent attacking us, right? I even mentioned before the Bengals game, I said, I think Mike Gesicki is probably going to be the guy that you're going to need to pay the most attention to. And that if he's the one that ends up beating you and not Chase and Higgins, you can live with that, right? Now, he ended up killing us, and also so did Higgins. But now this year, you don't necessarily need to have that problem. You can have issues where you're like, there is no weakness. I don't know how the hell they're going to be able to attack us, and we're gonna shut down the pass game and be able to really focus on just being a defense that makes you earn every single first down that an offense gets. And that's what I'm the most excited about. I also think, like I said, I think he makes the jobs of PS2 and Riley Moss significantly easier, because now you can have them playing at their strengths. Now, obviously, when you're talking about Patrick Surtain, he is the best corner in football, bar none, by far and away, the reigning defensive player of the year. We know how good he is. But it allows for him to take, it takes even more pressure off of him. And it's also going to provide him with more opportunities to get interceptions, to have quarterbacks throw the ball his way, because they were basically just avoiding him last year. And they were going after McMillan and they were going after Riley Moss. But now with a lot less weaknesses, with, Jahdae Barron being there, sometimes quarterbacks are going to say, we have to go after PS2. Naturally, there's going to be more targets going that way. And that is going to increase the opportunities of PS2 to be able to make plays and make a higher impact. So I personally expect Patrick Surtain to have an even better season this year than he did last year as the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. And on the flip side, it's going to be able to help out Riley Moss, right? Who I think performed very admirably, especially before the injury throughout the season. He got thrown at a ton. Defenses were going after him. I was really worried about how he would respond. I thought he responded very, very well. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But in your first season in the NFL as a starter, because he played basically nothing his rookie year, I thought he played really well, and I think there's going to be a lot of steps for growth. And he's going to have less balls going his way. So he's going to be able to, have a little bit less going his way, have a little bit less responsibilities, and therefore improving his game and allowing for him to take advantage of the opportunities that he's given on the flip side as well. So I'm so excited to see how this defense ends up playing. You add Jahdae Barron in the mix with the two prized free agents in Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, and I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a defense that is, I think the floor is a top 5 defense, and the ceiling is a historic type of defense in terms of just how complete they are, just how fast they play, just how opportunistic they are when it comes to making big plays and creating turnovers and really shifting the impact of the game. And obviously, as we know, that is going to directly help make Bo Nix's job and this entire offense's job and Sean Payton's job as a play caller significantly easier as well, with a lot more short fields. So let me know what you guys think about Jahdae Barron, man. I'm so excited to see him throughout the preseason, throughout the training camp, how he looks, with the pads on. And I want to see this defense flying around, man. So let me know what y'all think in the comments below. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care of yourselves. And until the next video, go Broncos, baby. Peace out.